Every story you love, every invention that moves you, every idea you wished was yours, all began as nothing. Just a blank page with a blinking cursor, asking a simple question. What do you see? Great ideas start on Mac. Find out more on apple.com/Mac.
The detective said missing kids usually come home. What happens when they don't?
Based on a true story.
Police looking for John Gacy.
We discovered bodies. By the looks of it, they're younger men.
The things he did to those kids. He's sick.
The system failed these families.
Devil in Disguise, John Wayne Gacy. Streaming now, only on Peacock.
Do you know how many there are?
Up to you to find out.
Welcome to Why We Roll, a tabletop role-playing game design podcast by the Stillfleet Studio. We're your hosts, Chris Pickett, creator of the historical fantasy game Dance Macabre, and Wythe Marshall, creator of the political sci-fi game Stillfleet. Through the show, we hope to amplify new creative voices. We chat with different indie TTRPG designers, talking through a range of questions that are pertinent to many designers, players, and GMs. We hope to showcase fresh and even challenging ideas about what makes imagination-based games so powerful. Before we introduce today's guest, a reminder. If you enjoy this episode, please consider supporting the show and all of our games over at patreon.com/Stillfleet. Okay, let's find out why we roll.
Welcome to the city of Slamchester, where disputes are settled by wrestlers in bloody street fights. We presume it's somewhere in the UK. It's a hyper-violent world, and we are in a local sort of social club at the main event of a Slam City Pro Wrestling show. Introducing First, you see a tall, blonde woman wearing a one-piece kind of leotard with a high collar that's pinned up with hammer and sickle pins from the late 80s. On top of her head, she wears a red, what are they called? That's right. I know exactly what they're called. She wears a red ushanka atop her head, and she stands in the corner and she points at her opponent and says, "You are going down, comrade." You see, Madam Comrade. Hell yeah. The crowd of this show are slamming. They're saying, "Comrade, comrade, comrade."
Comrade.
In this show, this main event, it was drawn from a sort of lottery. And the person facing off against Madam Comrade is someone she knows very well.
That's right. Howdy, y'all. You see, entering the ring is a very tall, masculine presence, skinny, biceps, but just sort of triangular, sort of swimmer shaped. And they have a very large, like cartoonish sort of handlebar mustache and a little cape with bat wings and a black unitard. And they're in very good shape. And they have sort of maybe eye makeup to look sort of even, more pale than they normally would. And they are holding a flagon of blood, although it is very clearly Kool-Aid, like it's not even blood colored. And they address the audience with their classic mesmeric gaze and say, "You are now falling under the spell of the nightmare." And then they drink the blood all at once. That is obviously Kool-Aid running down in sort of purple rivulets down their chin. It's like really thin.
It's really thin, yeah. And they move toward the center of the ring right away and are just trying to hypnotize who has been up to now their partner in crime, their tag team partner in The Block, because the Nightmare
is famously from Romania, even though outside of the ring, they are clearly from the south of the United States.
Yeah, the crowd are sort of
nightmare.
scandalized. The crowd, I also feel like it's part of the gimmick of the nightmare. Often the blood, there's a very almost like comedic rehearsed panto-esque, if I'm not sure how much that you reference translates to the US actually, gasp from the crowd. And you hear a sort of commentator in the background going, it comes down to this, red on red action, referring to blood, communism. Who of the Nightmare and Madame Comrade makes the first move?
I think Madame Comrade is going to make the first move. I think she's going to spit on the ring in disgust and say, "Oh, you blood drinking idolater." I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about like Constantinople history, so idolater came to mind. But yeah, you blood drinking idolater.
I think the Nightmare is something really complicated about Trotskyite fascists or something. Something like Romanian communists would have said about the Soviet like Central Politburo, but it's like drowned out in the wave of people cheering you on with whatever you do.
But she's gonna kind of make a leap towards the center of the ring to make her first attack on the Nightmare. Let's see. So Kayla, at this point, or as our GM, what is happening that the audience cannot see?
So we are right now in this moment set up in playingcards.io, where we've uploaded a template from Transgender Deathmatch Legend II, and Chris is going to play a card to represent the attack that Madame Comrade is going to make.
Do you want me to share my screen? It will reveal my cards, which could change gameplay for Chris.
I feel that's a call for Chris to make, I suppose.
That's fine. I won't base my brilliant strategy or tactics off of cheating. I wouldn't stoop so. Madame Comrade would never stoop so low.
Madame Comrade would never cheat.
If Chris plays a card just into the center, and it will be able to be seen by the whole audience. So click on the card again and it will be revealed face up.
Boom.
The four of diamonds.
That's right.
And could you tell me which of the game's 4 fighting styles Madame Comrade uses?
I would love to. Madame Comrade uses a traditional, some would say programmatic fighting style. It falls under the technical category.
Of course.
Yes.
Strong,
of course she would.
It's party
Soviet
approved.
Engineering.
That's
Strong
right.
Soviet engineering. So yes, this card that was played was the 4 of diamonds. So Madame Comrade here is attempting an uppercut. Now to see if this uppercut is going to be successful, wife will need to reveal their card.
And do we know what the Trump suit is? Or is diamonds now the Trump suit?
A mistake I made, so I will actually say that the Trump is diamond. Let me
sure
draw until I find one up, because I think that would be fair.
So I have to play a diamond, correct?
Yeah, you have to play a diamond from your hand.
So I have a diamond, and it is the ace.
Now, the aces in this game are low.
So the uppercut does land in this case? Is that how we're interpreting this?
That's going to be...
exchange?
What style is the Nightmare playing in? I have an assumption, but... is
high flying. So they always try to jump and just... they're very tall, so their special move is actually sort of a grab and throw type move. So they like a lot of up and down, verticality. And an ace with high flying is the forearm smash, which lets me draw a card and then discard a card. So does that happen, even though I basically lost? I still get to draw a card?
So that Trump effect is going to happen, which lets you sort of refresh your hand and hopefully be in a better position, because also revealing to the listening audience, because we can all see wife's hand, he doesn't have any other remaining diamonds. So drawing here would be useful. Does the Nightmare react at all to this uppercut? Do they see it coming? Do they attempt that forearm smash and just get, like, beaten out? Or...
I think, yeah, they try to block, but they have the flagon they're still throwing away, which they normally set down in a more sort of composed manner. And yeah, they don't really time the block right, and the uppercut sort of maybe awkwardly, but definitely connects, you know.
Yeah,
it smashes the flagon of blood, getting sticky Kool-Aid all over Madame Comrade's khaki leotard uniform. And she looks down and with disgust and says, "Oh, you've sullied my uniform of my motherland.
My life essence. You a betrayer." So what happens at that point that now my character has taken damage, right? And so in this game, how does this sort of play out?
So here, and this is represented, I can move this on the screen. These two cards have been collected because that is a single trick that's been played out, a single beat of combat. And here they'll go to Chris's side. And we begin to play the next trick. Now, the high-flying style was, drawing and discarding. So at this point, the winning player begins the next trick. So once again, Chris plays a card from their hand that has to match diamonds because that's still the trump suit we're in. If they don't have a diamond, they can play any other card. But if wife is able to match the trump suit, they will automatically lose.
Okay. So, after hold on. Okay. So after getting this Kool-Aid, this blood simulacrum spilled on her, Madame Comrade is going to attempt to do what she does best and share in her bounty by, flipping out a 6 of diamonds and attempting to give the Nightmare a big old bear hug.
Oh, yeah.
We call this the... what kind of bears exist in Russia? Hold on. I'll get back to it.
Grizzly, surely.
Brown bears? Definitely brown bear. I don't know.
I think grizzly is only in
North
the
America,
Rockies.
I don't have any diamonds.
Bear.
This is okay. It's the polar bear plunge, and then she
good.
goes around, gives you a big old bear hug.
Yeah. That's... how does the Nightmare react in this crushing hold?
I think the Nightmare was really stunned, first of all, that they got actually hit. Their partner hit them in the face with an uppercut 2 seconds into this fight. And then I think is just really on their back foot, not prepared really to be wrestling, kind of wants to do more shit talking. And clearly Madame Comrade is here to not mess around. And so, you completely, you've grabbed me before my wiry arms, I can kind of get out and do anything. So I think you have me. And I'm being crushed. The winters in Siberia or the Carpathians.
The Carpathians specifically.
Clearly from Atlanta, and now we're in the middle of the UK, so it's not that cold. Yeah. It's cold, but
so that does an uppercut does allow me to let's see, or a bear hug rather allows me to draw a new trump suit card after this trick.
We would also
you win another
mention. Yeah, so that trick is collected, and Madame Comrade is now up 2 tricks to the Nightmare 0. Throughout a full match, the first person to 5 tricks will be the overall winner. Here in this place, we're going to draw a new trump suit, which is revealed as spades. In this case, we also would have actually drawn a new trump suit anyway, because when one player loses a trick by not being able to match the suit, that changes. And there's a sort of suggestion of is the mood of the fight changing? So I think because this is Former Things, half the crowd at this point, they're going for Comrade still. They're going I think there's a comedic thing once again almost to the crowd of going brr ah as a chant, because they're it's the polar bear hug. It's cold, it's crushing. But there are There are some of the crowd who are now sort of seeing Nightmare on the back foot and wanting to see a comeback from them. They are beginning to sort of cheer. What is the chant for the Nightmare, do you think? Do you think phrase or something.
Oh, that's such a good. Yeah, chanting seems so opposite the idea of gothic melodrama. You know what I mean? Like chanting is so loud and sincere, and like
maybe it's just
thing.
like Klaus Kinski, Klaus Kinski, or Max Schrecht.
I think it's like it's like something at your neck, protect your neck, or like sorry,
protect your neck could be a really sincere and good one. Yeah, protect
your neck is really good.
My horrible idea there was like the SpongeBob episode. They're chanting to the beat of Nosferatu, Nosferatu.
That's pretty good too. Yeah, legally distinct.
Yeah.
This is Transgender Deathmatch Legend II.
Hey. Nosferatu. Oh, that's that Joe Hill, didn't he write a novel called Nosferatu? That's like the license plate thing.
Sense.
Yeah, I don't know.
So at this point in a match, would it be good to step back a bit and talk more about the game, or do we want to play out and see how the nightmare comes back?
We could step back and then say that while my partner won this round, maybe there'll be another match that comes up in the course of the interview, breaks up the interview. Maybe Kayla will leave that to you if you accept that responsibility to throw us into another match, perhaps against an opponent.
Yeah, I think this isn't the last we've seen of Madame Comrade and the Nightmare.
That's right. It cuts to commercial, but it does like an interstitial, and it's Madame Comrade. She there's like sports graphics or whatever all around her, and she like spins around. She goes, "When you betray the people will crush you." And then like her name like splashes across the screen with like a ching ching, kind of like metal on metal sound.
Yeah, they've been thrown to an ad break.
Well, all right. Thank you, everybody, for listening to our cold open. I thought that was a lot of fun. But this is Why We Roll. It is the tabletop role-playing game, chat show from the Stillfleet studio. As always, I'm Chris Pickett with my wonderful co-host, Wythe Marshall.
Hey, it's me.
And today we are joined again by our friend across the pond, Kayla Dice.
Hi. Hey, thank you for having me back.
Yeah, thanks again for joining us again. That's not how words work, but whatever. We're going to roll with it. You just heard us playing a little bit of Transgender Deathmatch 2, which is a new game from Kayla and Ratwave's Game House.
So Kayla, do you want to reintroduce yourself for those of the audience who may have missed the episode on Psycho Dungeon, which is also cool, which we also want to play at some point, which was now, it feels like any number of years ago because of political upheavals in the meantime, but I think it was probably like 9 months ago or so when we last played.
Yeah, we both had different governments.
Yes, we did.
I'm going to start keeping time in government regimes like they used to.
I will say though, in the UK in years gone, in quite recent history, it's like if you were trying to track by prime minister, like that wasn't even going to help you keep what month it was. No, to introduce myself, I'm Kayla Dice. I'm a TTRPG writer designer from the UK. I live in London. I am self-employed, and so making games is like the main thing I do as my vocation. That sounded a very pretentious way of phrasing that. I self-publish games as Ratwave Game House, and the games I make often range in like genres, mechanics, and even styles, but what I often say is they're sort of united by exploring themes of alienation and connection. So the previous game I was on here to talk about, Psycho Dungeon, was a GM-less dungeon crawler through mindscapes, essentially, that also looked at employment and stuff. Whereas this Transgender Deathmatch Legend II is a 2-player TTRPG beat-em-up that uses playing cards and is essentially a schlocky action movie through a trans lens, as well as me wrestling with pro wrestling.
And it uses a great playing card mechanic that we just saw a little bit of, and also has a crawl, right? It's a hex crawl kind of narrative structure as well. In addition to then the micro, like the match, the match is in there, but you have things around the match and ways to sort of be in urban space with other schlocky action wrestlers, but also like just other people. And I think there's a lot of interesting work there with when you're in the sort of almost like magical world of wrestling, the kayfabe, if I'm making that connection right, and when you're not. And I think there's a lot of bleed, and that's I took it when I read it as somewhat of what the book's about, right? Like how pro wrestling is both real and fake, and it bleeds into life and has real life sort of consequences if you're a wrestler. Even at the same time, it's performative and has stories and characters. So very cool kind of meta RPG in that sense, like very much about being a character in the game.
Yeah, the game has like these 7 scenarios which cover a sort of variety of plot setups, which all place you in the position of like a hard done by trans wrestler in the hyper-stylized world of Slamchester. But even with that, their tone really does change. Like some of them very much like treat wrestling almost as this like real combat sport, and then some strip back layers. In some stories, it's more an incidental element, whereas other scenarios are much more engaging with the idea of like performance and masks. And I think it's in that way a lot about like how you are seen by the world, how you see yourself. And also, yeah, it's a game about how it is fun to punch.
Yeah,
I love that. I feel like there's a shyness amongst liberals or folks on broadly on the left around punching, around using violence. But I do like that the game just kind of leans into it, and outside of even just the kayfabe, it's like, no, it's like sometimes you have to punch your oppressors. That's okay.
Yeah, I mean, so there's the kayfabe stories where it's like, oh, you can read these as in a wrestling sense. You can play them, almost all of them, in a sense of like, oh yeah, wrestling's fake, but this game is real, which is often how I've tended to play it for some reason. But there are ones where you are not confronting wrestling characters. You're confronting, gatekeeping, bigoted doctors. You're confronting far-right protesters. And like, it still has the setup and trappings of your character having this wrestling background or the inciting incident relating to wrestling. So that's how it links in. But at that point, it's more like wrestling as a vocation in an action movie almost. But yeah, I think there it's often very much like it's a violence as a solution to these things. I said, like, say it's set in a violent world. It's also in some ways set in a world where transphobia can have maybe a bit more consequences than it does in our world. Both you being those consequences violently, but also in some other ways, I think like the game plays out.
Yeah, that's interesting because it's setting up like you said, there are these 2 levels, and you can lean into one or the other. But you can play it almost like you mentioned it. There's like an arcade style mode, but it does have that old school video game beat 'em up vibe of kind of walking through a city, fighting your rivals, trying to be the best wrestler. And then there's also the level of kind of, because you're explicitly cast as a trans character, and then there are some scenarios that are more about sort of transphobia and confronting that. It's like there's a kind of getting revenge element or like being able to experience what that might feel like to like have to fight back. And so it's modeling, it's like simulating 2 like things that are on the surface similar, because they're all like, it's like beat 'em ups where it's not about like killing people, it's about like punching them. But on the other hand, they're very different reads or like levels of sort of seriousness. And I think that dissonance or that play between those levels is really fun. And it is, it's expressed graphically. You address it in like these little mini essays that are really well written. It's sort of the beginning and the end of the book. But yeah, it's just a fun book. It's a really good book. And I think, people should really check out Transgender Deathmatch Legend II for a number of reasons. I think there's a lot in the book. It's not long, but it's got a lot of cool ideas. So just wanted to say that up front.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really proud of the game. And yeah, definitely I think a lot of like almost in terms of their seriousness, the way I structured the different scenarios in the game, I almost thought of them as like a journey almost through reality. I do think I begin with the most wrestling one, and I think in terms of the ones that like play more in the action movie space, it ends with the one that's like closest to the bone, I guess, in terms of things. And like that's where like it brought in action movies. It also brought in it brought in like beat 'em up games. I also, in that case, in how I was framing a lot of stuff, was thinking about action movies and martial arts movies. Like in the appendix, I think I list 2 Bruce Lee films there, which to some extent also kind of informed the decision to go with some, like I described, like close to the bone, almost ripped from the headline things. But in terms of doing these things of like almost, I guess, an image of what could a trans-led action movie be like, I was conscious of not wanting to do something that was like Death Wish for trans people and had all of the problems of that kind of genre of action movie. Like, I was thinking about something recently, and I was thinking that, like, for many of these scenarios go to quite serious places, your character is not ever necessarily put in the place of a victim. They're more a hero, in a almost in a folk hero sense, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I kind of get the read of like the Warriors vibe. You know, that kind of more like, like the Warriors is very much to me an action movie, but it's the punk action movie where it's not glamorous, it's not glitzy, and like kind of still holds to like, you know, street politics. That's the read that I get out of it, more so than like a Mission Impossible kind of like action movie genre feeling.
Well, and to the idea of not wanting to be Death Wish, and not like it's not about killing people per se. Like, I think one of the ideas here might just be asymmetry on the left, and like if communists took control, the goal wouldn't be to like kill all the bad guys. It'd be to like live in a more utopian world, you know. And I think I just can't get out of my head. I just read No Pasaran, Matt Christman's Spanish Civil War, and the idea that the anarchists were like doing something very different the whole war than the communists or the liberals or the fascists. Like, they were like doing their own thing that kind of only vaguely at points intersected with like basically World War II. And so I think it's interesting to think of an action movie that isn't about one-to-one, like, you know, I'm going to get rid of the bad apples and like reify the state. It's like, I'm going to do my own thing. I'm a wrestler. I live in Slamchester. I settle disputes with my fists. And so like that sort of intersects with like this, you know, horrible cultural things going on, but it also is just kind of like you have your own life, you know? So some of that pulls through. It feels like you're a real person a little bit, even though you're very much like in this kind of like, you know, video game action movie universe. Sorry, Kayla, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I think like the Warriors is a good reference point. And like, it was one that like, I did have as a touchstone. And I think there it's both there's a grit to the Warriors, but there's also like a campness, and this like it sort of like puts itself in a lot of like has a lot of like epic allusions with like sort of like Greek warrior stuff. And I think that like Transgender Deathmatch Legend II plays in that similar space where I definitely think that, there's like a Warriors scenario, it's inspired scenario, but also I definitely think the one that engages with like trans healthcare in the UK also maybe has some of that tone where it's like it's more about like what would an epic of someone conquering this force look like if we're using the language of action movies, beat up video games, and wrestling, the language of violence. If we're using that in a story, what would it look like?
Well, I like the idea of framing it as an epic as well, because you know you always hear people talk about wrestlers as well as I take a little bit of issue with this, but like thinking about like, oh yeah, Marvel superheroes are kind of like that's our new interpolations of mythology, things like that. So there is something interesting about framing wrestling, you know, heels and baby faces and all of that stuff within a very specific kind of like narrative framework, where it is epic poetry in a weird way.
Yeah, and
it's not quite Gilgamesh, but
we were
It's
giving
definitely
people
like
license.
narrative play, like
Mhm.
or like a moral play often, and like I think that to some extent does also inform some of the plots of the game. That it is like there's a reason you're the face specifically,
Right.
because the face gets to beat the heel.
Right. It has a narrative structure that is weirdly specific, but also pretty open. So Slamchester can kind of be many things, and as you say, you can take on different kinds of opponents or interpret like the beat 'em up in different ways. But it is a specific narrative structure, and to what y'all are saying with the epic, I never really thought of it, but like the epic, like I think Odysseus goes on the first hex crawl, right? He's just like hex crawling across the Mediterranean. And I think this has a similar vibe of like it is not just you're a wrestler, you're on a hex crawl, and all of the different scenarios, which are all different and really good. They all have great names. Like the first one, Enough Gore to Settle the Score. It's a great name. They all are hex crawls, and they're letting you sort of see your city by tying geography to like events in your life around wrestling and money and healthcare and sometimes respite or the chance to sort of push your luck, take on a challenge fight. And so it's interesting that it's a very familiar, mechanic or narrative structure if you're used to old school RPGs, but I've never seen it used for, a trans wrestling themed game. So, it's really, really interesting kind of merger of like we talk about the Pareto principle, like 80% of this, it's all stuff people will kind of have seen, but I think it's used in a totally novel way here.
Yeah, I was trying to remember like what was the inception for it being hex crawling specifically, and I think it probably related to the fact that like when I was putting together the original game, I guess there was the idea of like, well, a fight needs to be a discrete unit. A fight is a scene, and I think I probably at some point must have thought like of like, okay, so you need to be entering and exiting fights, and I guess that brought me to hex crawling because that's already a very elegant solution that is commonplace in TTRPGs of entering and exiting things. I think the way it plays out in terms of how I made it, because it's not very, you couldn't convert the hex maps into like actual maps to figure out the geography of Slamchester. They are maps that I think remind me of like video game screens. Like almost every hex is like, okay, you're on a new screen. So you've gone from like this fight to now this scene, which is a dialogue between you and an NPC, or you've now moved to this thing that is like a little mini game. Or for the briefer things, you could think of them almost like the loading screens of a thing. I don't in general think of myself as a very video game influenced designer in a lot of my other work, but I do think because this card mechanic was so brought out of fighting games first, it then moved on to beat 'em up games. And yeah, I really appreciate what you're saying, that like it is a combination. Like the trick taking mechanics are incredibly basic, but they are not something used much in TTRPGs. I had not seen it used in TTRPGs when I made Transgender Deathmatch Legend 1 2 years ago. I'm not saying it hadn't. It very well might have been that I had not seen, or if it had, it at least wasn't applied to fighting in a way that I'd seen. So yeah, it was an idea I felt very proud of just combining a lot of things and going like, oh, this is a new shape. This is something that is so obviously a game and so obviously a role-playing game, but I think just does not function in the way a lot of other role-playing games work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the trick-taking part of it, I think that you do a really clever job of, you're defining the specific fighting styles, which there are 4 of them, correct? What are, I know technical, because that was my characters, and then high-flying.
Yeah. So there's technical, this isn't showing up great on my thing, high-flying, and then spirited, which is a sort of more... Spirited was one where it's like big slams, big throws. It was one, I guess, I was wanting that could encompass a lot of different approaches to fighting, rather than me having to break things down more in a more granular way that might have alienated people less familiar with things.
Mhm.
So Spirited was also what I would probably have described my fighting style as when I was a wrestler. And then Dirty is the one where it's specifically all about cheating and being underhanded, which I love that you can play a dirty style and then still be this babyface, because it means you're just, I guess, kind of almost spending your scenarios when you're playing in like the hexcrawls just being a little stinker for justice.
Yeah. Well, you're the anti-hero, right? But I think that the styles then go on to kind of describe what each, through an ace, through a king, or whatever that you're playing, like what that does as an actual move, which gives it a lot of nice flavor and makes it so that what kind of can feel like more of a board game mechanic still has this narrative flexibility where you can kind of, narrate around what your character is doing. So it doesn't just feel like you're playing cards. It feels expanded out from there.
Yeah, it's thematically integrated, across the mechanic to the world, because you're doing an uppercut. It's not just, I got a higher or lower card than you. You tried to do the uppercut.
Yeah, I like that there's like the clash of things and different people can discuss how that works. I think it's a thing like often where I thought like dice don't necessarily work as a great thing for like melee or hand-to-hand or kind of combat, is like I feel that's so much built around like blocks and dodges and counters or taking things and just absorbing them. And I think with the card play where you're getting to zoom in on this individual interaction of like, okay, I'm going to try I'm going to try a drop kick, and someone going like, well, I'm going to try like a double leg takedown, and it's like, okay, a double leg takedown beats that. You probably go for this drop kick. I catch you and throw you to the ground. It encourages role playing because you're wondering not only like, oh, have I won? You're like, how did both of our attempts interact? What does that look like? How am I winning here?
Yeah, it makes me each move special.
Yeah.
And you get to like then sort of build in aspects, I guess, of like, or no, sorry, not build in aspects. What I mean to say is at that point also a lot of the role playing is informed by things like if you know you have a bad hand, that probably informs how you approach even the tricks you win. Whereas if you know you have a good hand, but you keep losing tricks just by unfortunate luck, like that also probably approaches the fact that you're going to play your characters maybe having been doing a bit stronger or looking more on the edge. And you can build in the personality like we saw in our cold open with, Madame Comrade's specific version of a bear hug, and also how that's perceived by people, how she styles it there.
Yeah, I feel like there's so much you could do with this. Like the 4 styles are well written as is, and it feels like it'd be also very fast to come up with another, because you're just listing ace through king, and then coming up with, okay, what is my particular character's thing? And so I feel like if you played it enough, and you could extend that into more sort of wuxia and like martial arts, beyond like professional wrestling, but like keep the same basically mechanic and the idea that a style means it's a cluster of like similar types of moves, but you never know exactly what you're going to get. So it's interesting as a player, you're not like choosing to do an uppercut or a leg drop or whatever. You're drawing it and then interpreting it, as you're saying, which is, it's interesting. It's like, I almost wonder if you could do the equivalent with dice. Like, I rolled a 7. Okay, a 7 means what I was trying to do is blah,
Yeah, I definitely think you could do something really interesting with wuxia style and influence. And that's a thing that I think has influenced at least how I often think about fantasy, which is not this game, but I've enjoyed lots of films that like focus on martial arts, because I do think that can communicate a lot there. And I feel like I had a thought about something else that you said. Was it related to the... Oh, yes. No, sorry. It was relating to the styles. I do actually want to make sure I shout out that... So the original Transgender Deathmatch Legend 1 only had one single move oracle for everything. and the styles were not a thing I came up with for the sequel by myself. A team of developers called Running from Skeletons made a hack of Transgender Deathmatch Legend 1 called Untapped Talent, and they made fighting styles there. So I wrote these fighting styles, like, Unique and interpreted that, but like that specific idea of like, oh yeah, you could vary an oracle to say more about a character in making classes basically from the move lists was something I built on Untapped Talent, which built on that original game. So like I think that's a beautiful part of how design is, but I wanted to make sure I shouted that out in the episode because we were talking about it.
No, that's really cool. And I appreciate it because I think, you know, as somebody who's not really like keyed into the history of wrestling, whether in the US or the UK or anywhere really, it does give me these little footholds that were really nice just for on the fly role playing. So yeah, it's nice that you don't have to do a ton of prep, but you kind of have the narrative language of the game just right there in front of you.
Yeah, and I think that's cool that you've already seen the mechanic used by others, and then you're responding and bringing it back in to, like, in a way, the official game. If I recall correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, Kayla, there is like a license, or like there's a kind of SRD version of your trick taking fighting mechanic. Let me go back to your itch page. I'm pretty sure I didn't make this up.
Yeah,
correct?
no, there is. I called it the fight card system, which, yeah, I put that out after like Transgender Deathmatch Legend 1 because I just thought, oh, you could definitely do loads more with this, because obviously that game was just one scenario, and I was like, oh, but it's a fun mechanic. So I guess it was also a way of trying to see if anyone else wanted to pick it up. And yeah, Running from Skeletons did. Also, Alyssa Ridley from Biscuit Fun Games made a game that also built from that same system in a sort of like roguelike Slay the Spire way. I even did another hack in this same system. So like, yeah, it's like obviously no one owns mechanics. It was more assembled there, more for me to just be like, oh, here's what I've made in this game and this format. If you think this is interesting, here's some of the rules in just this like laid out plain way. So I probably won't update it for Transgender Deathmatch Legend 2, but I'm also like very fine, obviously, with people continuing to build on anything I made in this game. And there is also a bit of an appendix in this game where I say like, oh, because like the 7 scenarios, I think they're all really good. Then there's lots of suggestions for how you can be expanding and varying the game. And one is like, oh, here's how it's really easy to make your own scenario. Here's what all of their hexes do. And then there's a quick note at the end where I'm like, oh yeah, also feel free to publish it. Don't say I like had anything to do with it, but that's cool.
Keep my name out of your mouth.
If you get sued because you made one of the opponents in your game a caricature of a British politician, you can't say that's fine. Kayla's worked on the game. Like, I didn't work on the game with you, and you can't say but Kayla did it in Transgender Deathmatch Legend 2, and then I say don't bring that up. Don't drag me down with you.
So you're saying you don't endorse our new Luigi Mangione game where you go around New York finding billionaires?
I mean,
healthcare deathmatch.
Healthcare deathmatch.
Would I endorse it? I mean, an endorsement's a strong word, but I think would I react to it with a big smile?
Right.
That's good. That's good.
No, I'd love
that's
someone.
enough.
Yeah, I'd love if someone made something like that.
So the game has a kind of built-in like license, right? Which is great, obviously. And yeah, the fact that it's so simple and intuitive, makes me want to design a game using the fighting, especially, and kind of play around with that. Maybe we'll do Mangione Deathmatch, whatever.
This might be a useful actually moment to jump to, I guess, some of the other, just because we've talked about like the hex maps and the hex crawls, it might be useful to, because obviously, there's the fights, which are the big centerpieces where you meet characters. You also then have ally hexes where you move into and on, depending on the different scenarios. Oracle, that will tell you about a person you're meeting, and that helps you fill in a bit more life of the character. But Then another one is challenges, which are things that aren't necessarily focused on a physical combat. If we go back to the shared screen of Enough Gore to Settle the Score, I could throw into a challenge. So Enough Gore to Settle the Score is the opening scenario to the game. It is that you're obviously your main character, and I'll just actually read the opening to it, because I have my copy of the book here, and I can get up the Enough Gore to Settle the Score. There are plenty of people who hate you, some for bad reasons, sure, maybe some for good reasons. People are messy after all. For others, it's just self-interest. You have something they want. It's a cutthroat business. You're a name someone can build themselves on. Fair Play Flash Allen can make their name by grinding yours into dust. They've gathered a faction, the Unlimited. They've busted into your apartment and ransacked it, took some sentimental stuff, and are parading it over town. Fair Play wants a match. You want your shit back. Take it all, piece by bloody piece. So in this case, it's like, yeah, someone's just screwed with you in a way that is, more potentially wrestling storyline focused. You can play out a version where this is like a guy you work with going completely rogue, but also it can be very easy to imagine this is the real world stuff of wrestling. So in this scenario, you are crawling across the city and meeting different members of the faction. Each time you meet one, you're explaining the specific history you have with them. And if we imagine here, who would we imagine maybe has been targeted by a faction out of Madame Comrade and the Nightmare, just to give us some preamble set.
I feel like either are fair game.
I feel like we live together in a small apartment. And it's, we're like not good roommates. Like we're friends, but like terrible roommate solution. Sorry,
Okay.
Kayla, that doesn't answer your question, but
no, actually, this is good. I like the idea of playing it almost with both of you. I should mention there is a set of like tag team rules in the back where you can sort of add extra characters. Involves like a slightly different variation of how you deal and draw cards, but that's a sort of fun aspect. But like, yeah, if we imagine this and then we'll play a challenge like normal, but basically you've moved into this challenge, which is 13 and it's promo. The Unlimited count the tag team of Beauty and the Beast among their number, a deadly combination of grace and fury. You're not taking them on together one by one. There's a live mic at this bandstand and someone to stream what you say. Cut a promo on them both, make one of them think they're the weak link. So the way challenges work is they're basically an opportunity to get usually some kind of advantage. And often that means like a jump on a person you're going to have a fight with. That may be via getting into their head, or sometimes it's like these sort of brief encounters where you only get out like one hit or something. In this case, it's a promo to get into their head. And that means when you start, you're considered to have automatically won the first trick. So in this case, say you win this challenge and you start at one trick on Beautiful Brian. That means when, say, the Nightmare or Madame Comrade goes to fight them, they don't need to win all 5 tricks. They already at start, they just need to win 4. And the way it works is there's the challenge here. So I'd jump in a bit more to the scene. I'd imagine you get to the bandstand. I'd probably explain how a character, I'd add maybe some character for both of you and suggest that like one of you has started egging on the other to say something. Who do you think might have done that?
I think
the Nightmare.
I think I've definitely started talking crap. Maybe I'm a little drunk. I think I'm not really ready to do this fight. I'm kind of saying how because Madame Comrade just won in our match that we had to fight against each other. So I'm both. It's like a inverted shit talking. Like I'm saying how great Madame Comrade is. She's so great. Always wins match, even against heroes.
yeah, you come up to this bandstand mic, you see someone streaming, you know about the tag team. But there's also, I guess, this aspect in terms of the energy here that... Sorry, what am I... There's also the aspect here that, like, yeah, so a crowd sort of gathers around because they've heard the Nightmare egging Madame Comrade on, and they're instantly like, oh, sick, Madame Comrade's gonna say something. Like, they are gathered and they are wanting you to say something at this point. This is a challenge with a difficulty of 2, and what that means is I will draw 2 cards from the top deck. In this case, we have a 6 of spades and a 10 of hearts. The suit is actually not relevant for challenges. From your hand, Chris, you need to see if you can play a card that beats just the highest numerical value. In this case, a 10. So you need to have either a matching 10 or one of the face cards.
Oh, unfortunately, I do not.
So in that
Can
case,
I- Can I help out with the king?
If you have a king, yeah, we could. So
we're the ones shit talking each other.
We imagine Madame Comrade comes up and maybe just like chokes or something.
Yeah, just stammers, forgets her English.
Yeah, and the Nightmare has to come in and save this. So, do you have a king? Do you want to give up that king to play?
I will give up that king to give us, really give Madame Comrade an advantage on this fight. I think, I think maybe, Madame Comrade is originally from, a Russian-speaking environment, and just like with all these young reporters, like Gen Z people with phones in her face, trying to get a good clip, like freezes up. And so I go up there and I start like rapping really badly in a Count Orlok accent. And I just am trash talking the hell out of who are our opponents here? The Unlimited. This is Beauty and the Beast. Yeah,
they are a sort of odd couple tag team of beautiful Brian, who is a flamboyant high flyer, and JC Beast, who is a tractor themed spirited wrestler.
Tractor themed, so good.
That's why Madame Comrade choked, is because she saw that tractor themed wrestler and was like, "Oh my god, what farming equipment! What efficient farming equipment!"
Yeah, I think I really don't like Beautiful Brian because they're too close, to how I perceive myself as just a really beautiful dark face, and it's a good rep. Exactly. It's all 19th century. It's all Victorian, themed mesmerism. Okay, if that's allowed.
Yeah, I would take this because we're sort of playing almost like this just version with 2. So in this case, it's either of you would take up the challenge. So that makes sense. So yeah, in that case, that would mean I, as the GM figure, or the promoter in this case is what I term it in the game, would just make a note of like, okay, when you get to the Beautiful Brian hex, which on this map would be hex 17, so that would just be straight up the fight you could walk into, there's a note of like, oh, okay, when it starts, I just automatically award you 1 trick. The reason someone might choose to avoid a challenge for any reason is that, like, you don't get your trump effects when you do this. It's just numbers. So you might prefer to save a thing, and obviously if you lose, the way it works is you have to discard the highest card in your hand and redraw, and you don't even have the advantage. So there's the trade-off of entering a challenge. Their difficulty can vary, because I said that was a challenge 2. I drew 2 cards, and that revealed the 10, which was the very difficult one. If that was a challenge 1, I'd have only revealed 1 card, it would have been the 6, and we'd have been much more sort of smooth sailing there.
Do you shuffle, or do you try to play through the entire crawl with 1 deck without shuffling? So basically, like, I know that king has been used, so I'm not going to get that king back. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so in that there's the discard pile that builds up throughout play. In theory, over the course of a core of a crawl I don't believe an occasion would drive you to run the deck down. I've not actually done the math on it, but I think that's actually, yeah, I guess if you went to like 9 tricks each game, you probably might get to the end of a deck before it, in which case you'd reshuffle. But I do like the fact that, like, it's a thing I do enjoy about cards in general. It's like, this is a game where card counting is a valid strategy. And that's fun and useful for the fact that, like, as a promoter, ordinarily I'd be like fighting against you, and it's actually useful for me to know, oh cool, my good cards are gone, I know how to lose here if that's the story we're telling. And also it means you do have a bit of an ability to read other people based on, oh, I'm playing the 9 and I know that all other 9s are gone because we played through them in a previous fight, so I'm pretty sure I might have this here. That's, I guess, has the resonance with the fact that, like, your characters are reading each other and you're reading the state of a fight, and the fact that wrestling as a scripted sport often does have a arc to its matches in the same way choreographed action in films is, you know, choreographed to look prettier. I think the fact of, like, the cards having a predictability just has a lot of fun echoes of things from other mediums, I think.
Yeah, totally. Well, also beyond that, in the way that you view action movies, you sort of know what's going to happen, and it's very rare to be truly surprised. I mean, it can happen. Remember, like the original Matrix, or like Everything Everywhere All at Once. You know, there's moments where you're truly like, I don't know what's happening. But most of the time, you're almost watching because it is so telegraphed. And it's like it's like a different part of your brain to watch, as y'all were talking about, this kind of mythological level, good and evil stuff that can be very dumb, but it can also be very cathartic. So I think here it's interesting, the kayfabe, you could play into that or against it, I guess, where you could really go with the theme of like this hand, like, I'm pretty bad at wrestling, at least this week. You know, I've had an off week, gonna get beaten up. Maybe my partner wins. That makes sense. It's sort of like I'm a sidekick. But hey, what if there's a reversal? And then that's actually really satisfying, right? So it would be sort of interesting either way to lean into, like, I'm kind of a joke in this crawl versus, like, in the end, I'm able to play, you know, a jack or something and make a big move. So yeah, it is different than rolling dice, for sure.
Yeah, I played a game on Party of One Patreon with Jeff Stormer, and in at least one game, there's the fact that, like, we gradually, in the course of a single match, used up all of the low blows. So one person just kept low blowing the other, which worked great because their character was like a dirty fighter and also like a comic. So it was the rule of 3. And that has more fun because of the fact that there's that, like, limited scope there. So if we, like, yeah. And then there are other mechanics here, like Weapon Hex allows you to get, like, a random card that is offered with a unique trump just to that, but often they are harder to enact, so that's the fun trade-off of a weapon. The gray spaces are essentially like breather spaces. They just describe some of the environment and that you move through it. And then these skulls are the respawn points in this hex scroll, where if you lose a fight, it's the idea of you, like, just wake up in a hospital, an apartment somewhere, and you can go back and have that fight again. Game. Some of the other scenarios which are more serious have checkpoints where there's more the idea of, like, oh, if you lost a fight, rewind to this point, because there may be stories where, like, it's an action movie and it's like the tone of it is suddenly very different if you're actually, like, losing as a face. You want to maybe figure out how we change how that story plays out. If we I was going to say, if Louis zoomed out of this demo here again, was there, I know you wanted to talk actually, and I guess that does bring it on to a bit, like the transgender of the Transgender Deathmatch Legend.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting because you could have made, I guess, you know, you talk about it in the book at different points in the sort of essays, which again are really well written and short, and I think do a lot of work to frame the game without changing, you know, disrupting the gaminess of it. Like, it still feels like a very playable manual, like well written in that sense as a RPG book. But yeah, I will say, reflecting on it as someone who doesn't identify as trans, making a character and thinking, okay, I'm a trans character, specifically. And so if I'm making choices around how my body's perceived, like what I'm wearing, just like, I don't know, it's just an interesting moment that is a little different, which is different, but I guess, you know, where I started, which may be really dumb and I hope is not offensive, but I was also like, well, when you're in like any fantasy scenario and you're playing someone not like you think about what would that be like, right? And so I think it's and that was something I wanted to ask you about before, when, you know, we were talking about before we started taping, of just making a game that's asking people to, first of all, imagine themselves as transgender, and then imagine themselves as having a wrestling persona, a professional wrestling persona. So you could have just done one or the other, I guess, but it's got a kind of doubling.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because I think to some extent, like, if I was asked, like, why did the game become Transgender Deathmatch Legend specifically, because it was, I'd made a one-page fighting game that used this as mechanic just as a fighting game. And then I thought, what would that be like if I was making it more of a full game? What would a scenario be like? And I guess at that point I was like, well, the more narrative version of a fighting game is a beat 'em up. And I think I had the phrase Transgender Deathmatch Legend banked in my memory from a few years prior, I think, for like maybe almost like a script idea or something. Is probably a combination of like an album called Transgender Street Legend and just the phrase Deathmatch Legend that got thrown around in wrestling a lot. And I guess I liked the idea of that almost as this schlocky action movie, but thinking more about it for the sequel, which I did because I was just at a very different space as a creator, I guess. I was thinking about the fact that for me, when I say like so many of my games are about alienation and connection, what was interesting about Transgender Deathmatch Legend 1 is, you know, about the fact that like you're a character who's been mistreated. You've not explicitly been mistreated because of being trans, but there can just be that edge of like, well, is that why? And I think that edge is maybe sometimes often can be part of being marginalized in certain ways. For Transgender Deathmatch Legend 2, I wanted to, when I went into the character creation, I guess prep the player to think more about the transness of the character, because I think maybe that was easier not to do in Transgender Deathmatch Legend 1. And that focused, a lot on, I guess, systems of relationships, where it's a lot about, like, how are you perceived? How are you talked about? And I think these are all ways that are trying to emphasize to you that your character is someone who, I guess, in this like world of wrestling, you know, it's not this super trans dominated space. Like, you are someone who is often marginalized in the ways that like people you interact with in this professional sport or whatever you're taking it as, the scene, don't share. And that can be a tension for a lot of your interactions with, you know, wrestlers you're meeting, or other characters you interact with, even before you then get into the ones which are bringing that more to the fore as a plot element. And I guess the fact that I wanted that character creation to feel like it was, getting people in this more reflective space when thinking about like who their character is, was because I guess I wanted them to be willing to go to those places rather than just suddenly being like, whoa, I've just dropped this cartoon character into this. It's like, they could be a cartoony character, but there's a person there. And I guess a lot of it is, I think the fact that you are also a wrestler who gets to like put on a performance and be perceived in that way, to some extent, prevents this, I think, from being a game where I suggest that being trans is just entirely about thinking about how other people see you, which isn't true. But it puts to mind like this character in a scene as a performer, the fact that how am I perceived is a thing you're going to think about, and that has extra implications, or it carries extra baggage, I guess, if you're trans. And I think that's because I guess I think about that a lot as someone who has been a comic, like a stand-up comic, and I guess also just explores the idea of perception and being known or knowing people or not knowing people and feeling distance, like in my work a lot. So I guess like those themes which interest me a lot and that I go back to a lot make just like a lot of sense in a game where you are a trans person in an implied to be UK modern setting.
Enjoying the show? Please consider supporting Why We Roll in all of our games over at patreon.com/Stillfleet. Dear patrons, we really love y'all. We just couldn't keep making Why We Roll without your support. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Now back to the show.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, you do a really good job in the text for character creation about giving these moments for reflection. I think especially, like Wyeth is saying, as somebody who doesn't identify as trans, but playing the game, it does give you these moments like you have a section in character creation where you specifically instruct players to describe their gender, both in terms of how they see themselves and also to society. And I think that, a privilege of being cis or cis passing or cis representing is that you don't have to think about that quite so often. There's a lot of moments where you can kind of, not have to worry about how you're being perceived by others in very public spaces and things like that. So having those little moments of check-in, even before the game starts in character creation, does give you these kind of reflexive points that I really appreciated going into it.
Yeah, and I mean, I just also think it makes sense, like you're saying, why have it be about trans characters if it doesn't matter? Like, otherwise it is just a game about wrestling, and then why have it in the title? It is a good title and is memorable. But if it's going to be in the title, if it's going to be a part of the game, it's like, lean into it. And then, so it is a question of how do you lean into it? And I think you've struck a balance here where, to what Chris is saying, it's emphasized at different points a little bit, but it's like, I would say it is more still about wrestling. I mean, Kayla, it's more of a question for you. Is it more a game about wrestling or being trans? I think it works nicely together in that throughout all the scenarios, there's framing elements to some of them, more than others. Like, so there's the one specifically about like kicking out the transphobic promoter, right, of the city. But in general, it's not that it's missing. It's in there, and you were brought to think about it as a player. But then a lot of the action of the game is like any wrestler would be. You're trying to win a wrestling match. And so I think that's almost an interesting move about when you're calling people's attention to different things. It's almost like you made two games with one game, which I imagine, I don't know if it just felt very natural when you were making it, or if you really, I know it's actually the second version. So maybe that's a question, is how did it evolve in your thinking from the first game to the second game? Which
I think the first game, it was like this idea of like, oh, this is the plot of this game. I think for the second one, I was thinking about it much more. I don't think I just like, I think, I guess the question is, it more trans or more deathmatch is interesting. I think it's mechanicals in terms of being like a combat focused game. That's through like a wrestling lens. And I think there are lots of ways where the game is like maybe about wrestling, or at the very least like about a relationship to art and performance, which I think, can be about wrestling, but also can be about a lot of other things. I think, one of the essays where I talk a lot about how I approach, like, I guess, various art forms I've done, it's using a wrestling, like, analogy, but it's far more, like, the art form it's talking about there is far more stand-up. So I think, like, in that sense, like, it probably does also have some resonance to, like, TTRPG creators or players, definitely, even, who, frequently engage in an art form, play form that is about performing. I think in terms of like where it's relates to transness, I don't think I'd describe any part of it necessarily as a game that's like about being trans, but I would say, the game centers on themes that I think have a lot of like importance to trans things, and like your character is trans, and that's like this, written in thing. There's no part there's no appendix where I say, oh, if you want to play a non-trans character. I'm like, no, that's just part of the game that I think is the buy-in. And I think that's because yeah, the mechanical thing is about an interesting way of combat, but I think because I'm then like, what's interesting about a one-on-one fight between two people? And I think what's interesting about it is the relationship between those two people. And I think for me, when I think about like whatever I consider like trans themes in art I'm making, I'm thinking about like, yeah, the way transness affects the ways I relate to people and have relationships with people. So I think that's why the connection between fighting and like the trans aspects made sense. I think it's also maybe something about how I write character creation a lot that does just chew into a more direction. I think it's also I think in some ways it's a game that just, I think a lot of times with the second one, I thought of it as a lot of like, oh, this game just brings together things that have been important to me and the different art forms I've traded in. So it makes sense to be about wrestling. It makes sense that the essays used stand-up material, and it makes sense to be trans-focused in that way, because that's informed how I've existed in every other artistic space I've been in. It immediately informs the relationship I have with an audience when I stepped on stage as a stand-up, and it immediately affected the relationship I had with an audience when I, came out as a babyface wrestler wearing a trans flag as a cape. Like, that affects a relationship. And, I guess then in smaller ways that affects a relationship when I show up to like a space that is explicitly for women. And then how is that relationship that is being built affected there? I think what I said there was interesting. I'm not sure if it fully answered any question.
No, I think that it definitely got towards what White was asking there. Not that I can speak for you. The thing that keeps coming to mind for me too is just like echoes of performativity, right? Like it makes sense that it is about gender affirmation and about transness and about the fact that gender is a kind of performative action that we put out into the world. Wrestling is the same way, right? It's these different kind of like valences of performativity. So there is kind of like a poetry to it. It all kind of reflects in on itself and supports itself in that way.
And maybe in also like ways in which your idea of your performance of self, like you were talking about stand-up, will be communicated and how it'll be perceived by others, and that's you don't know in advance. You think you're being one way, and people might have this kind of different relationship to it. And it seems like a lot of the characters based on in these scenarios, they're in this world of other professional wrestlers in Slamchester. And by the way, I just love as an aside that like I'm imagining England is just full of professional wrestlers. Like
yeah.
Like 1/10 of the jobs in Merry Old are just like wrestler. It's just like you walk down the street, you're like cab driver, grocer, construction worker, wrestler. It's very normal. But yeah, that like everyone has it's this uneven sea of people who are kind of jockeying for positions in different ways. And some of the scenarios have absolutely nothing to do with gender, and then some of them are calling that out as a reason why your character is acting. And you've created that for the player. You've given them a narrative structure where you've said, okay, this like say that one scenario where this promoter is transphobic, and you want to basically get them to disassociate, right, with Slamchester Professional Wrestling, I think is the league or whatever. So I think it's interesting that you can even at that level of kind of we might call plot hooks or whatever, provide different lenses onto when are we in the kayfabe, right, and when are we performing versus when are we like not performing, and that comes up throughout as another, not even about wrestling but just in general, like when are we being in a story, doing a diegesis versus when are we being ourselves, and how there is bleed there. But those are still real dipoles. Those are still lines that matter. Which again, a lot of games, you don't get that. It's not like when you're playing like an Elven Ranger, you're like, you know what, I go home and like take off the elf ears and I'm not, it's like, you're always just assumed to be in the diegesis in a lot of sort of traditional fantasy RPGs.
I
So
never take off the elf ears.
you never take off the elders. That all is one segue. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but my real question next that I have to ask, and Chris, you may have others, but my question is about Slamchester, the setting, and going back to that point about England being full of wrestlers. So, can you say a little about your idea of like how did you choose this setting and how much of that is drawing on your maybe not your life per se, but like your culture, experience of wrestling? Because I know you said in one of the essays that you didn't grow up necessarily watching it because it was this like American TV thing. You had to have cable, and it was kind of complicated to like access as a sport.
I was very interesting as a kid. It was just like it didn't necessarily, the way I had to watch it was much more cheap, I guess. I watched like highlight things. I looked at WWR.com. I got VHS tapes from
hell yeah
like used electronic stores and stuff. Like, so I was very into wrestling, and then I completely fell out of wrestling, and then I got back into it as an adult, and I practiced as a wrestler for a number of years. So like that stuff maybe I think it's informed some of, I guess, how I approach things about like the scene of wrestling whenever that becomes a plot point, which is, in many ways not that different from many other artistic scenes, perhaps with a lot more failings in certain respects. But, it's in terms of that thing of people jockeying for position, there is the fact that like, that's sometimes how people see a lot of people in, I think, artistic scenes see things as like worry things as zero-sum games, or that, someone else's success necessarily. Like, and I think like, yeah, that stuff forms it. With Slamchester itself, I think like originally it was just like this phrase I wrote in the original game. As I said, like, oh yeah, across the streets of Slamchester. And I think even at the time, I wasn't even sure if I was saying this game takes place in a city called Slamchester, or if I was just making up a nickname for Manchester that no one actually uses in real life that felt fun.
Right.
In this game, Transgender Deathmatch Legend II, I definitely had to begin thinking more about the setting, and it got shaded more in like I reference a specific promotion that keeps coming up. Some characters recur between scenarios, and then some locations are also pointed out as the same. In spite of the pun, I don't know if it is specifically Manchester. I think it's probably much more influenced by London, kind of specifically like a version of East London that's informed by, some of the places I watched wrestling, some of the places I trained, also where I went to university in some of the ways as well. Like, so it brings up that, I guess I always think of it as a city of night. So that's, I guess, why I say university I'm thinking about. Because so much of the game is the idea of like, yeah, you are fighting in the middle of the night. And I'm like, yeah, it's because I think about like awful times and awful long journeys you make across the city. And it's so often I've gone out clubbing and it is now 3 a.m. and I need to get back. I think maybe that
our own little the Warriors, yeah.
Yeah, I think that almost feeds into some of the mood of the setting. Some of it, like I say, then comes from like Bruce Lee action films. Some comes from, there's a wrestling show called Lucha Underground, which played in this kind of like fantastical version of Los Angeles, where like, yeah, there's like weird magic going on because it was also fantasy, but also it's the fact of like, wrestlers getting in like serious fights in like streets. So like that informed some of it. I guess I thought of Slamchester as a bit of a sort of like Unreal World, I guess, almost in like a Streets of Rage vein as well. Like how like that kind the beat 'em up version of New York. I guess I wanted to create this beat 'em ups version of East London, even though I know
Yeah.
it's still
Right.
named
Which
for
is drawing on
Manchester.
real history, like the Bronx's burning era, the late 70s era that gave rise to the Warriors also gave rise to Streets of Rage, right? And a lot of it was garbled because it's like Japanese developers watching movies that are people in LA making fun of what they perceive to be, you know, urban blight, problems with corruption, basically, you know, racialized urban development in the United States. And it's like filtered through levels to the point where you get like, I'm the mayor, I have to go out in just overalls and no shirt and beat up the gangs and free my city. And you're just, it's like, if any mayor of New York, even Eric Adams, I would actually like support Eric Adams if he walked around shirtless, like hitting guys in the face. It's such a like over the top like gesture at rulership, but no, I was saying it made me think as you're talking about like Slamchester, it almost implies like Totten Slam and Not in Slam, and that Slamlanta is the capital of Georgia, and Los Angeles, you know, is where the
Los Angeles, yep.
It sort of implies a whole world being run like this, being governed by like fisticuffs, which is, you know, it's a kind of dream about ways to settle scores that is not, I don't know, it's not as bad as state violence, I guess. But
I mean, it's spawned literally hundreds of shonen anime. So there's something to this. Like, this is what people really yearn for in state politics, is just to be able to solve everything with their fists.
The people yearn for the streets.
Yeah, they yearn for the street violence.
I know, actually, it reminds me, I guess in terms of like the setting. Sorry, I've once again lost a sort of train of thought there. It was about Slamchester and its weird, almost like video game like world.
Sorry, I just wanted to say Totten Slam. I think I just really, that wasn't even
no
question, but
that was it. I was going to say a thing I've been interested in that I know a lot about is there are a lot of like films starring El Santo, who was a big lucha libre guy, where he plays almost as, I believe, like this almost superhero, but it's and I don't know much about that about this genre of films, but I know these lucha libre films where luchadors are played as heroes getting in adventures, I think often battling almost supernatural forces. I think that's kind of got some resonance. I think that probably draws in a weird way along the same idea of like, okay, a wrestler is a weird character. If this person lived a real life, what world do they belong to? And I guess for these El Santo films, they were like, well, there's probably these kind of things he can fight. He probably, you know, fights almost like a superhero in his daily life. And for me, I'm like, yeah, man, it's like fucking wrestler gang violence.
these are so good. I've heard of El Santo, but I just went to the Wikipedia, and I highly encourage everyone to check out the filmography. The original movies are things like Santo contra el cerebro del mal, Santo versus the infernal, the evil brain. And then his next movie was Santo contra hombres infernales, Santo versus the infernal men. And then his next one was Santo contra los zombies, which was Santo versus the zombies.
Hell yeah.
And they have that apparently mythological character of like this masked man who needs to sort of stand up and be a hero. So very super heroic, but like tied to being a luchador, like being a wrestler.
Yeah,
so that's an interesting
he was an
genre.
active wrestler, and I believe plausibly must have a claim to being one of the most famous wrestlers ever, even though I feel like not so... I was going to say not so known out of Mexico, and I'm like, that's not even entirely true. Like, very known in certain circles, but like, I do believe like it was a massive contemporary celebrity at that time, so it was obviously big enough that, yeah, they wanted to make loads of films about this guy, and then it's like, well, okay, what's the world he must belong to?
Yeah. Well, I like the idea of shaping the narrative world just around like the concept of a character, not even a specific character, but just like, we have to have a lucha libre hero. Who would they fight? Like,
And like, who would we put our trust in? We wouldn't put our trust in the state. We would put our trust in like a mild-mannered, ripped guy with a mask who like doesn't want fame. He's anonymous. But when the zombies come, like we trust him over the state to take care of the zombies. Or his most famous one was Santo versus the vampire women. So same thing. All these vampire women keep terrorizing Mexico. Who do we turn to? Yeah.
Yeah, and like I think a lot of the scenarios in this game are me going like, what problems are solved by a transgender deathmatch legend?
Yeah.
It's great. Tight narrative structure, wide emotional experience. We can't say it enough. Narrative structure is the apex of design. It's the thing you can start with. It's the best.
Kayla, could we do a collaboration where we do a transgender deathmatch X Dance Macabre, and it's set in Slamchester.
And the vampire women are there.
Yeah, and the vampire women are there, of course. Yes.
Of course. As one does. Well, before we get to that, so it's 8:30 here. It's probably even later where you are, I think. Do we want to do a boss fight where we get to see Madam Comrade take on I already forgot the guy's name in the first scenario, but the jerk who's in charge of the Unlimited gang.
We can jump to Fair Play Flash Allen.
Fair Play Flash, right? The Flash Allen, and then we should talk about where people can pick up Transgender Deathmatch Legend and check out your other games. And maybe
so in this case, I'm going to draw my hand to play as Fair Play Flash Allen, and then I will introduce the way a boss fight works is that the promoter, the GM figure, actually draws up an extra hand size. So I draw to 11 things, which in a sort of peek behind the curtain way, I will say, has the effect of you thinking, oh, they're more powerful. They have more moves. But the intent behind it as a design decision is if you have more cards, it means it's easier to pick the cards that aren't as good, so you can lose the final fight dramatically. So yeah, we get to where Fair Play Flash Allen is. What it means is like there's been sort of various things, and you have arrived in the 4DTA Arena Slamchester. It's just some like frequently like a small venue that plays lots of like bands and stuff, owned by presumably like a data company. Entered into the ring, and you see Fair Play Flash Allen, a rising talent on the cusp of true arrival. Trained by some of the greats, thinks he's already exceeded all of them. Probably has the best dragon suplex going. He looks like a sculptured statue. Almost perfect, knows he is, and driven by how much he resents that almost. What has he taken from you? So what was the prize Fair Play Flash Allen specifically stole from Madam Comrade and the Nightmares dual apartment?
He stole Madam Comrade's first edition of Das Kapital volumes 1 and 2, which are priceless because money is fictional.
And he put a sandwich inside the mouth of these really nice custom fangs that the Nightmare got and wears before matches, but then takes them out because obviously you don't want to have something in your mouth and it breaks during a match and you swallow. But it didn't actually permanently harm them, but it was just really offensive.
Yeah. You see Flash on. I was going to say no, not in the ring. Darkness, like the lights black out, and then a spotlight hits on Flash Allen, who is just like pointing to himself as a pose. And he goes like, Madam Comrade, I see you've arrived.
I am always here on time, much like the trains in my motherland.
Madam Comrade. I'm trying to get people to chant already. Yeah. I love a chant.
You're like going around the ring clapping.
I'm flapping the bat wings to try to, bring attention to you, regardless of spotlight.
And I see you brought your sidekick too. Well, the Unlimited are here to tell you that the wall's fallen, miss.
The Berlin Wall? Nobody told me.
It's a new day. It's a new dawn. And it belongs to Fair Play equal opportunity.
Oh, no.
It starts with a flash, and they at that point just go in for an attack. I will actually draw a new trump suit because we've, done this. And what he is going in for with his spirited style is the 7 of clubs, which is a drop kick, which means like he is running at you, leaping through the air, and just trying to kick you with both legs.
Okay. All right. So our trump card is a club. So
Clubs.
Seeing fair play coming at her, Madame Comrade ducks her head down and then dodging busts out an armbar, grabbing fair play while he's in the air and saying, "There may not be thing as free lunch, but there is free pain." And then, like, in the armbar, slams him down onto the mat.
That's awesome. So yeah, you claim that trick, and you lead as you are now you're the leading player. I actually should say the 7 didn't have any trump effect, and neither did your
the
card.
8.
Oh no, it did.
So the armbar exchange the current trump suit with the previous one after this trick.
So previous one just means, so we're back to spades.
Oh my. Okay, well, we're gonna keep up some strong attacks here. And I think we're gonna actually continue the armbar. I'm just gonna dig in, like, Madam Comrade. How do arm bars work? Bars the arm even harder.
Yeah, it's just essentially grabbing the arm and pulling it in a direction it shouldn't go. I'm gonna get some heat. So I'm playing the 10 of spades, which means I am going to be able to take this thing, which in spirited style is a sleeper hold. So I think what this means is, bind the arm, and essentially Flash wraps their legs around the rope to pull themselves towards that, and in that getting tangled, you have to release this hold. Flash is then on you like a fly that's really annoying and buzzing around, and instantly grabs his arm around Madame Comrade's neck and begins to try and just choke sort of the life out of her. It's like, oh, don't worry, dear. I think there's enough pain to go around for everyone.
You cannot privatize my air.
That trick is claimed. Yeah. Do you flip us back to clubs with an 8 again?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Let me know if you need an alley-oop or if one is allowed. Actually, no, I don't have any clubs, so never mind. I drew all spades, pretty much.
I'll play a 9 of clubs, which is a spine buster, which is basically where a wrestler lifts another one up and tries to slam them down into the ground.
Okay.
So it's going to be basically, after like choking you in the ropes for a while, Fair Play is going to release you, shove you out, and try and just like charge in with this attack.
I can't beat this, but I will try a chin lock, which starts the next trick. I'm not sure what that means in this instance, but
okay, yeah, I'll explain it. So, I think, there's probably a fight aspect to this. So actually, I don't think Fair Play throws you out of the ropes. I think like a referee comes in and shoves you apart. Even though from like maybe Madame Comrade's perspective, they're like, this dude broke into my house. But yeah, like they are separated apart by this referee. Madame Comrade, I guess, like just goes in for more like trying to technical grapple, but at this point, Fair Play ducks under. Aspect of surprise, like jumps Madame Comrade up and just like tackles her to the ground with this big slam. And then this is how I will explain it. So what lead the next trick means you are going to get to play your card first.
Gotcha.
rather than me. And that's because Fair Play Flash Allen goes out of the ring to showboat at all of the, as they call it, latte socialists cheering for their deposed comrade.
Hiss, boo, hiss, boo. At Flash Allen, not at my friend.
I feel all of the characters very much become reactive to you, because Fair Play Flash Allen probably would not play out as this, I feel like, weird free market lover.
Yeah.
But because he's up against Madam Conrad and Hill, it's like, well, obviously that's the direction for him.
Well, obviously, yeah. Fair play, free trade, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does fit.
It makes sense. All right, woof. Well, let's see. Okay, so I cannot match the Trump suit. But going into our next attack, we'll try... Oh, geez, I feel like I'm up against the ropes here.
So I guess you have two choices here. I'd get rid of a low card because you think it will be useless, or go for a high card in the hope I might also be out of clubs.
I think I'm gonna go for a low card, but I'm gonna play this 2 of spades, so another chin lock, so that I can take advantage of the next trick.
This is actually fun because I like the angle here. I will play the... Oh yeah, I'll actually end up... Yeah, I will play the king of clubs, which is so excessive because he's still showboating. Rolls back in, you presumably get up, going for this chin lock again, and the king is just a slam. It's just like you come in, reaching your arms out, he just grabs wrist, just pulls it, flips his body, just slams around again. And once again is sort of immediately up again on the ropes. And yeah, is just saying, why don't we let the market decide? Cheer if you love me. And rained down with booze. Rained.
I like that you've made him sound like an early 20th century British aristocrat, specifically. Cheer if you love me.
Or is that Matt Berry doing a Tory?
I think in the first voice I gave him, I was going for almost a a sex appeal as an image, and then gradually I'm like, no, he's posh.
Well, he's got the Matt Berry confidence of he thinks he's sexy and he acts like it in every situation. Yeah.
So you are once again leading this. Yeah. How does Madam Conrad try and recover while
oh my god,
Fair Play is distracted with the crowd being like, no, I think that was supposed to be a cheer actually.
Let's see.
Are you saying boo or boo Allen?
Boo Allen. No, they're saying boo Earns.
Oh, I should say, actually, we should draw a new Trump suit because that was a failure to match there.
Oh, great. Oh, even better.
Yeah.
Okay, so rallying herself, Madame Comrade, she's down on the mat. She's just been slammed hard, and she looks, and there's blood that's come out of her spittle. And she looks at the red blood and thinks of the flag of the Soviet Union. And it stirs her into action, and she plays a king, a crossface, King of Hearts.
Damn! I love it that the Madame Conrad combat starts when we flip. I should say we drew a new Trump suit, and the Trump suit we flipped to was Hearts, a red card. Yeah, I cannot beat the king. Nothing can. So yeah, there's an attempt. He comes back in and now goes for another hit, but just how does he just get outclassed at this moment as you're rallying this combat? A crossface is anything where you just essentially grabbing someone's face and just once again pulling the face in a direction it shouldn't be pulled. So many technical holds can be described as you grab a body part and you pull it where it shouldn't.
Yeah, so Flash, free trade, fair play. starts running at Madame Comrade. Madame Comrade kind of jukes out of the way. And then from behind, as he's about to hit the ropes to bounce back and start running back at her the other way across the ring, from behind, right as he hits the ropes, she grabs his head from the brow and puts a knee in his back and then flips him over onto the mat.
Oh, that's good. I think he like does this a little bit like like a very sort of like cut off gargle scream. I think this is the thing, is that like I think in the story we've told, your real possessions did get stolen, but this guy is still playing a heel.
Yeah. Madame Comrade says, "Only the people have the power to pull down this Tsar." When she plays the king. That's
yeah. That's great. So yeah, once again, you are still leading this trick because you won that one. I have no trump effect with the 8. Yeah, I never gave the king a trump effect because I was like, well, it's the highest card. It's like,
yeah. It's like an auto win.
Beating the king is supposed to, like, that involves you having done weird stuff, which is more impressive.
All right, so we're going to switch things up again. We're going to do an arm bar.
This is actually great. I'm going for a clothesline, which I know you both weren't super familiar with wrestling, but that is where you come in and attack someone with your arm outstretched and aim to hit them with your arm. So Fair Play, I think, really telegraphs this. Like, gets up from the thing, whirls around, and goes, clothesline! As, like charging. Like, he just calls out the move they're doing and offers their arm up to the technician.
That's right. I wasn't at Chernobyl, but if I was, nothing would have malfunctioned. I am the technician. And she she grabs his arm, and faster than the human eye can even see, she's behind him. She's got his arm bent backwards behind him as he finishes the last of clothesline.
Awesome. So, yeah, collect those 2.
Boom. And then that does change.
Oh, yes, I know. I forget your 8. Yeah.
Yeah, that does change this. So we're back to spades.
Yes. No. Yes, we should be back to.
Mm-hmm. All right. And then, should we maybe do this as the last one?
Yeah, I think that makes sense because we've got almost this sort of tied up point. You are leading this trick. Once again. All
right. So lastly, but not leastly, to wrap this up, she knows that it's a stretch, but she's going to attempt to do a double leg takedown on Fair Play, Free Trade, Flash.
And yeah, so that's a double leg takedown. It's not a matching one, but I am also out of clubs. So I am playing the 7 of diamonds, which would be an attempt at a headlock takedown. I think weirdly enough, this final beat is we are descending into this like ugly grapple on the floor. I should mention, there are other things that happen when, not other things, but in this case, we'd once again draw a new thing in terms of like if we were playing on after this trick, which would actually move us to diamonds there. You would collect that because you had the higher card, which is what wins when there is no trump suit to break it. If I also had a 9 of a different suit that also wasn't the trump, we'd be considered to like stalemate a trick, and that means whoever wins the next trick claims both of those, because it's a case of like, oh, you both attempted similar thing, perfectly sort of countered each other. Who wins this overall exchange once the counters run out?
It's like in an anime when 2 characters punch each other at the same time, and it's like, who's going to fall first?
Yeah. So you take down Fair Play just with a double leg at the end, with good old-fashioned technical wrestling.
That's right.
And Soviet workmanship.
Do not underestimate the basics.
Flying off the top.
Yeah.
is someone yelling in a curse in fake old Romanian, which is clearly like it's like pig Latin. It's like phoning it in. But yeah, I do my move, the standing shooting star elbow drop. I used the name generator for a finishing move.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And that's what I got. So I'm here tagging in and helping out my roommate. You finally got that book back.
I love that. Like
so
after the double leg
boring.
takedown, just the crash, and then it's like, oh yeah, no, that's that toast.
Just a
I also
fucked up
love.
little
I feel like
Nosferatu.
I was gonna say, I feel a fun implication is that like I feel like the performer behind the nightmare puts in far less research into their area of gimmick than the performer behind Madame Comrade. And I love that I feel I got that implication, even though we never played a moment where you broke character.
Yeah. I mean, the nightmare is supposed to be like someone who is a stand-up, and just general performer athlete. Like they played, probably like soccer, flag football or something, and their friends like made them sign up for wrestling, and they did it sort of under duress, and then now they're into it, but they really like the performance more than, not that they're not like strong, but they don't necessarily love fighting. I get the sense that Chris, Madam Comrade, like really wants to like technically like rip people apart. Like, wants to win,
There's like not an ounce of humor in this for Madam Comrade. She's like utterly serious about every aspect of the wrestling, every aspect of the communism. Like she's completely bought into this. So like, yeah, there's different, kind of like layers of frames at work, but hers pretty much all look the same.
Yeah, it's LARPing tanky, but like also you just never stop the LARP. It's good.
It's like steampunk people that always wear steampunk stuff.
Right.
At a certain point, you're not steampunk anymore. It's just you, baby.
Yeah. We're gonna see more of this as civil society breaks down and we all start LARPing like the next phase of human civilization. Like, and then we realize like, oh right, we can't just go back to like bourgeois society. Well, so Chris, you've prevailed. We won. Huzzah!
The crowd goes wild.
Victory! Yeah, the crowd goes wild. Your shit is reclaimed. And yeah, that scenario specifically ends with the fight, because that's like the big triumphant moment. Other ones have like little more different endings.
Mm-hmm.
There's one scenario where like it's entirely about the relationship between two wrestlers, like one, the main character, and then you create a specific rival for them. That ends with like a conversation after. But for this one, enough gore to settle the score, which is, big sort of sneering villains and triumphant baby faces. I think it makes sense to end with the crowd cheering, the books raised.
Yeah, Das Kapital, like a Rocky.
The crowd start chanting that. After that, they start going Das Kapital, Das Kapital,
Das Kapital, Das Kapital. Jesus.
I'm doing it, but off beat, like it's like a Philip Glass thing because it's so slow in the Count Orlok voice, like Das Kapital. As that fades out and we sort of pull back to the world of Transgender Deathmatch Legend II, Kayla, where can folks pick up the book, and what else, how can people find you and support your work, and also just buy this awesome book?
Thanks. So if you want to buy this game specifically, digitally, you can go to my itch, which is ratwavegamehouse.itch.io, and it's my current most recent release. You can buy it out digitally. That includes all of the playing cards IO templates we've had, as well as like the PDF of the book, and also like a print kit for some extra stuff at home, just to make basically there's a printout sheet so you can have the rules reference separately from the scenarios and stuff. If you are looking for the game physically, which is in the sort of format that I have been sharing glimpses of throughout the game here it's in like a sort of like calendar format where then it goes up vertically and in this A4 landscape. I am finishing up fulfillment, or at least partway through it. I've posted out all of the books and box sets, where that also includes these bookmarks of the fighting styles and other things are going out soon. So post fulfillment, it's going to be up on my web store, which is ratwave.square.site. That's also where you can buy plenty of my other work. You'll be able to buy things like Psycho Dungeon or Out of the Fold, which is like another card-based thing I did last year. If people want to check out more about what I'm up to, if you go to like ratwave.uk, you get my website, which has lots of like big directory of stuff and places to go. In terms of social media, like I'm on Blue Sky at like ratwave.bsky, the end bit. So yeah, I'm on there. I'm on Tumblr. I'm still sort of on Instagram and TikTok as well. But like, yeah, I have a section of my website which is socials.ratwave.uk, where that just lists all of the social media I'm currently on, because it's all like that. And yeah, also through like the shop on my website, you can subscribe to my newsletter, where I try and post a monthly blog, which is I've tried to sort of shift it to I post a monthly blog where it's something interesting I think about with what I'm working on. I did a deep dive on my favorite scenario from the game last month, and before that I talked specifically about a project. I think next March, when I'm going to try and write, I haven't started writing it yet, is something on like different like modes of address, because I've been varying that across a couple of different projects. And then it's also where I ever just post stuff like new game, new thing. I'm working on like 2 games at the moment. One is a game about jousting, which I guess continues my interest in mock combat, I suppose. And another is a noirish game set in space, a space noir game that I'm calling Strangers in the Vast Dark. So those are my 2 big upcoming projects for this year. If you follow me on social media or subscribe to my newsletter, they'll probably hear. And yeah, physical games available at ratwave.square.site. Transgender Deathmatch Legend II is going to go up there soon. And also loads of my back catalogue is there. And it's I think so much stuff I definitely like this game. Like I say, it feels so unique, and it feels like it brings so many different things together in a way where I've said, like, I think this game could have only been written by me. And I think that's true of actually a lot of my games. So yeah,
absolutely.
That's the pitch for Kayla.
And what a great pitch it was.
And those are the kind of games we want to make, right? The ones that only we can make, the stories that everyone can relate to, but only we would think to kind of frame it that way and provide those narrative structures. So with that, thank you again for sharing your time, and actually we played this time, which is really fun. So now I definitely want to play Psycho Dungeon 2, just because it's a fun book and I want to see what it plays like.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got to play more with this card mechanic. I love Vex in the chat talking about doing a mech version. Really easy to imagine different specific weird like mech things happening. You drew a 7 and, you overheat and like a rocket blows off your, shoulder or whatever.
Or it could be like the classic mecha stuff. You shoot your boobs at somebody, or like, you have fist rockets.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of lasers. And yeah, I also think it'd be a great, maybe we didn't even get to this, but it'd be interesting to talk more and hear more about playtesting and other people's experience of the game. And also all the fun of creating a wrestler. It is something that I also grew up like having it on just because people watched it, but I was never into wrestling. But the idea of who would I be, or like what kind of person a wrestler is and how specific or non-specific, because they are kind of tropes. It is fun and it is different. So again, just to plug, like, it's not like creating, that sort of elven ranger, like you're not leaning into the diegesis in the way that you do with a lot of fantasy and sci-fi. So yeah, it's a different kind of game. And yeah, thanks for playing. Chris, any last thoughts, or should we give Kayla the last word and call it a night?
Give Kayla the last word and call it a night.
Awesome. Kayla, last thoughts? Anything you wanna add?
Yeah, I guess my last thoughts are that I'm really proud of this game, and I think the crowdfunding campaign was like a big struggle. The art of the game, which is photographs of me and a friend of mine posed in violence, was declared like too extreme for BackerKit. There were lots of areas where I sort of like really felt like I was struggling uphill, but I'm very happy to try and be moving beyond a campaign and focus on. I think I made something that feels for me like a lot of like the last word on a lot of things I've done, like wrestling, which I'm very moved on from, but also feels like I guess a summation of a lot of artistic pursuits I've made for. So I think this is not an easy making a game that only I could have made, but I think it was worth the fight.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry to hear that about BackerKit, and I think the art is really good. I mean, it is it communicates. I think it seems like a lot of the tone in that it's sort of funny but sort of dark, and is actually you, right, the creator.
Yeah.
So I think it sort of ties together a lot of themes without being very obtrusive. So it sort of dips into that. I know this is a podcast, so that's why I'm explaining it a little bit for potential listeners who haven't seen the game yet. It has some of that expressive type Merkborginess in terms of reds and yellows and blacks. But it also is very, very readable. And the art is usually sort of big backgrounds of, wrestling moves, right? And it's showing off you as a creator being a wrestler also, which is really different. I think, again, most people making TTRPGs don't inhabit the role of the characters in the world in the art. So it again has that we're talking a lot through this episode, those levels of sort of, what are we relating to and what are we sort of moving back and forth, considering. So that is a shame that they just didn't get it over there at BK. But congrats on the campaign. It's a great book. It all came out really well. We'll have to pick up a hard copy for our library, and we'll have you back on next time. So with that, Kayla Dice, Transgender Deathmatch Legend II is the game, and check out everything at let me make sure I don't say it wrong, ratwave.square.site. We are why we roll. And we out.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening to Why We Roll.
Our theme music is by the brilliant Sam Tyndall and Arpline.
If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
You can find us on all social media at Stillfleet. You can find out more about Danse Macabre, Stillfleet, and all of our games over at stillfleet.com.
Hey there, Hugh from Podderation here, and if you like today's show, why not have a listen to the All Things Nintendo podcast? Hosted by Brian Shea, former director and Game Informer and lifelong games journalist, the show explores the ins and outs of gaming's oldest company and one of its biggest, featuring interviews, featuring reviews, featuring everything you want to know about the world of Nintendo. If you'd like to learn more, check out our website at podderation.com.